Sleep paralysis, paranoia. I was hoping someone could give an opinion about an experience I have been having recently. I don't strongly believe in the supernatural, but lately some things have been getting to me. To start off, I have been living in the same house with my parents and sister for about 10 years now. My parents used to rent the basement as an apartment for people. In 2005, a couple were living there. The man usually worked during the day, and I believe the woman did not work, so she was there alone a lot. One day my mother told us that during a conversation with the woman had told her she thinks there was a spirit in the basement. She said she had seen an old woman from time to time, and that it had even given a name to her, Gloria. Of course, we just laughed about it. We eventually forgot about her story, and the couple moved out a few months later to get a bigger place. Now to my experience. This first thing was in July 2009. The summer was hot, as usual, and the AC didn't work well in my upstairs bedroom. Since it was cooler in the basement, I got in the habit of going there during the day. Nothing happened for a while. I watched movies and played video games on my laptop. One morning I awoke and I was especially sweaty. My parents had already gone out to do grocery shopping. I woke up and soon went to the basement with my laptop and a book I had been reading. We have an old bed in the basement, so I usually am on that when I am there. I was reading and started getting sleepy, so I switched off the light and went to the bed, lying on my back and just relaxed. I was like that for about 2 hours, and I began to drift off but did not fall asleep. As my eyes were closed and I was drifting off, I suddenly felt a pressure come against me, and my mind immediately became alert. The thing is, I could not move. I could not open my eyes or move my body at all. I felt a weird tickling sensation against my skin, and my hair was standing up. I began to panic, and then I heard a voice across my mind. The voice can best be described as a distant, mournful, and aroused moan. It sounded feminine. This lasted a few seconds, and soon as my body could move, and left all my things in the basement and ran upstairs. I stayed up there until my parents came home. Then I began to rationalize with myself that it was nothing. I made my way back downstairs to get my things, and as I entered the room, for some reason I turned to the closet and said, "Get out and leave me alone." I eventually got back into the habit of hanging out in the basement, but I never turned the lights off or tried to sleep there again. For the past few months now, I have been having trouble sleeping. First, it just felt like anxiety from my own life that was the problem, but I often felt like I wasn't alone. Once I saw a tiny red circular light at the edge of my bed, but it was gone as soon as I blinked. About a week ago, I experienced the sleep paralysis again. I was asleep for a while, but suddenly I had a distinct feeling that I needed to look at the end of my bed. I started hearing a male voice that I first thought was part of a lucid dream I must have been having. The voice sounded like an arrogant male that was whispering. I could not make out what it was saying. I opened my eyes and I suddenly felt scared to look. I tried to move myself to look, but the rest of my body would not move, and I could still hear the echo of a male voice. I felt my fear building, and soon, my head broke free from the paralysis, but it started shaking as if I was having a seizure. Then the voice was gone and my body could move again. I turned on the light and sat there before I could fall asleep. Lately, I can fall asleep fine, but I get up around 2 a.m. and I have trouble falling back asleep due to feeling of anxiety. The only time I can sleep through the entire night is when I keep my bedroom lights on, which is weird for me because I have never been afraid of the dark before.
Scratches and bites recently. On Tuesday, June 19th, I got out of the shower and was drying myself off, and there were bright red marks on my upper thighs, more on the right than the left. There were about 20 in all at the time, and a few of the 20 were on the sides of my hips. The longest scratch was about 4.5 inches and the shortest one was around 2 inches. On Wednesday, June 20th, more scratches appeared now. At least 30 scratches adorned my upper thighs and hips, still more on the thighs than hips. On Thursday, June 21st, around 6 more appeared along with a supposed bite mark, the longest mark now 5.5 inches. The bite mark, a crescent shape, frightened me to no end. It is Friday, June 22nd, in the afternoon when I'm writing this paragraph. The scratches are white now, but, as most scratches, turn red when I shower. The bite mark looks a lot like a scar, Though it was clearly new when I got it, I also have a new mark that looks like a birthmark that I have never seen before on my upper thigh, where some scratches and the bite mark branch out from. I searched my bed thoroughly for anything sharp, but nothing was there. The marks tingle if you press on them, but don't hurt. I do have a dog, but he's small, and not only can he not get on my bed, but his nails aren't nearly sharp enough to scratch me like that. I have had paranormal encounters, and in the house I live in now, something feels off. I hear loud banging noises that no one in my house made. The poster next to my bed hanging up normally makes soft tapping noises because of the AC blowing it into the lockers next to my bed, but recently it has been banging violently for no apparent reason. We did not change the AC settings. This is not a hoax, I assure you, and I am a very frightened 13 years old. Please, no trolling, but I will definitely be open to helpful comments about the type of ghost and treatment options. Now, it's the Monday, June 26th, and yesterday, my best friend, the only one I told about this, Yahoo messengered me and told me that 3 scratches appeared on her upper thigh. She has less of a chance at getting them naturally than I do. I trust her to not lie about something like this, but I don't know how this is possible, and what scares me more is that she gets freaked out because strange noises are in her room also. Could I have transferred the ghost onto her by telling her about it and asking for her help?
Shadow goblins, I just thought I would post a story that happened to me when I was in middle school. Maybe someone can shed some light on what it may have been. I do have an overactive imagination, but I always try and find a reasonable explanation for odd and creepy experiences. First, this one I'm just stumped on. Around 10 p.m. I was lying in bed in my room because it was a school night. Sometimes I'd just lay there and stare at the ceiling or look at things in my room for a while before drifting off to sleep. It's hard to explain, but to me in the dark, things kind of look pixelated, like on a computer screen. Out of the dark, I started to see little shadows. They were each about a foot tall, maybe no real features, just outlines of shadows. I know it sounds silly, but they were in the shape of little cartoonish goblins. They started out of nowhere and moved up from the foot of my bed to my face and then disappeared behind me. I laid there for a few minutes in awe and half thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me. After a few minutes it started to scare me. I ran out into the hall, turned on the light, and yelled for my mom. The shadows disappeared. When I hit the light, I told her what had happened, and she told me to quit being silly and go back to bed. Sometime later I saw them again. I did the same thing. Ran into the hall, and they disappeared in the light. I again told my mother, and got the same reply. I remember it happened at least one more time, but the last time it was different. When I ran into the hall and turned on the light, they were still there. I still saw them as shadows, and they still came towards me and disappeared behind me. I yelled for my mother, and she still told me I was being silly and that my eyes were playing tricks on me. Even though I told her that I was still seeing them right that minute in the light, she sent me back to bed still seeing them. I eventually drifted off to sleep because I had no other choice. I never saw them again after that. I'd just like to know if anyone has heard of anything like this. Was it my eyes or my imagination or something else? I've had other experiences, but as I've always been interested in paranormal things, I've always kind of had a good knack of scaring myself over nothing. Although I should also note that at the time I was into witchcraft with some friends. I don't know if it has anything at all to do with this or not, although other things that happened at that time, I credit them to being young and in a group of girls and scaring the crap out of each other. The shadow goblins, I just don't understand. Sleep haunting. Ever since I was little I was able to see spirits, but not all the spirits were nice. My mom knew this. She too was a psychic, but didn't tell me of my family history until I was about 13, when she thought I could handle it. Because of this, I wasn't scared and found it normal when ghosts were to follow me wherever I go to try to speak to them. Yes, many I helped cross over, but there have been times when I felt something evil following me, and it was hard to get rid of it on my own since I am still weak in my abilities. But wherever I go, spirits seem to enter my room before crossing over. About 2 years ago, I was listening to a song called Rose for the Dead. I was a gothic young teen when I saw something black outside my window. I backed off, but I couldn't help but look again. The black figure was closer, and I felt pure hate. I couldn't sleep that night. Just a few months back, something was haunting and screaming at me, and when I lit a candle to send it off, the flame damn near exploded and burnt the glass and never melted the wax. Also, I hate my parents' bedroom bathroom. It scares me to no end. My mom lately has suggested talking to the spirits to help develop my power, and so I have been trying to do so. Last night I felt annoyed because something was in my room that wouldn't leave me alone. So when I felt it was gone, I went to sleep. I woke up around 4:33 a.m. this morning and awoke to flashing lights. something I am used to, but when I tried to go to sleep I couldn't. I was lying on my back when I felt extremely weak, so I rolled on my side, and that's when it started. I heard a voice that was similar to mine, but it was putting me down and saying mean and cruel things. I found myself unable to move and a hand on my leg. I heard growling and I was being bragged. Every time I tried to move, the growling would get louder. I was close to tears because I couldn't scream, but when I mentally screamed out for my mother, who was a more powerful psychic, I was released. I found myself half dragged out of bed, and now I have a large bruise forming on my lower leg. That leg for some reason is very cold, while the rest of me is still warm as well. Another thing is my cat refuses to leave my side since I left my room, but she won't go in my room when I do in. She sits by the door and stares into nothing, which is worrying me because she might be seeing something I am not, and I do feel scared in my room now. My mom is asleep now and I really don't know what it was, and she works, so I feel bad if I wake her. Can someone explain what's going on? And if any of these things are connected?